Imagine that's £10. I didn't go to the bank. Imagine that's a tenner. We say to the kids, if a Ripple bar was a pound each, can I buy 10 Ripple bars? They go, yeah. Men and all, and women, screw it up. Can I still buy 10 Ripple bars? They go, yeah. I screw it up again, put it in my mouth, I spit it out, I stamp it, and I say, can I still buy 10 Ripple bars? Yeah. Well, this £10 like you. You've been screwed up, chewed up, spat out and stamped on. The wrinkles will never go away, but you have a work. There's only one of you in this world. Why do you spoil it? Why do you end up in this dump? That's why I speak in front of the governors. Why come into this dump? And it sticks in their head, don't they? And I say, if you can't remember us, remember what Cheryl Cole says, you're worth it.
Everybody has the worth, but we never get told it, do we?
The reason we're here at Celeb FC is because we are doing something for a cause for the smaller charities that sometimes may not get as recognised as some of the bigger ones. The Chris Donovan Trust is one of those charities, and with me I have Vi and Ray, who are behind it. These are Chris Donovan's parents, and they have set up this trust in his memory. Please tell me, so how did you start the foundation? Tell me how it started.
It started in 2001 when our son Christopher was murdered by a gang of youths in Surrey. Christopher and Phil and a friend were walking down the street towards a friend's house, and they were set upon by a gang. They punched Philip first, knocked him to the floor and started stamping on his head. Chris went to save his brother. There was a few punches thrown. Two boys backed him onto this main road, which is a 4-lane A road. Another coward got behind him, got him on the floor. They stamped on his head till penalty shots through his face and body. When they heard the police were coming, they legged it. A girl went to get Chris out of the road, and the oldest boy said, leave him there. A car came over the hill, and she said in court she thought it was a bundle of rags in the road. She ran over him, his belt caught in her exhaust pipe, and dragged him 40 metres down the road. When Phil came through from being unconscious, the first thing he saw was Chris under the wheel of a car. We found this out by a doorbell ringing with two policemen saying, your son's in hospital, you need to come here quick. Didn't we?
Yeah. Never really thought it's you. It's always someone else, isn't it, normally? And we got to the hospital and Philip came running towards us in forensic clothing, and then we realised there was something more going on here. And then the police said, you can't see Chris, he's in an operating theatre. We never did get to see him alive again. He died several hours later. He would have been 34 yesterday. He was 19 a week after the day he died. He would have been. And he never got to see that birthday. His brother was 18, 11 months difference in them. They were very close. It's hard to take.
Obviously, in that circumstance, with the two of them being there together, I wouldn't say luck in any of this, but thankfully there wasn't the two tragedies, because obviously he was attacked as well. Has he been left with any sort of really lasting injuries?
Yes, if he walks down the street and he sees 3 or 4 coming towards him, he will cross the road and go around them. He lost his identity because everywhere he went, they were saying this is the brother this is the boy's brother got murdered. We're treated like that now. Mm-hmm. And then he moved to Chelford. He's living up there now. He won't come back to London unless he has to. So we lost him in a way, haven't we? But he's getting on. He's got a wife now and a little baby, so he's living his life. But he wouldn't come to the memorial the other day. We had a 15-year memorial for Chris. He wouldn't come.
He can't cope with it, and he has a physical thing that they broke his nose so badly that even 15 years later he snores so bad he's got to have an operation. And so these physical things and obviously on birthdays, Christmas, and 26th of May on the day he died, they were all really bad days for him and bad days for us.
But when we were told he was dead, we had to go and ID his body. When we went to the room, it's not like TV where you look for a glass window. This happens to nearly every murder victim. When we went to the room, there was a policeman and a doctor outside. I said, can we donate his organs? He was a motorbike rider. They said no. And the policeman said, I don't know how to tell you this. He said, but you can't touch your son. You can't hold him. You can't cuddle him. He became what is known as a coroner's property that night. Well, our chairman's a coroner now. And he said, no, he weren't our property, Ray. He was a crime scene. That's our son. He's not a crime scene, is he? You know, a car had been broken into, a house had been broken into, it's a crime scene. We couldn't touch our son, could we?
We weren't able to bury him. It took 16 weeks to wait to bury him.
She had to remove his brain. The coroner had to remove his brain, wait for an enzyme to come out to prove it was a kick in and not the car that killed him.
I can't even, I think you can obviously see by my face, because I can't quite obviously comprehend what the two of you and your family have been through. And your son, who was obviously, as well as the physical scars, the emotional ones that he has to live with from being there on the night. And that must be so hard for him to live with, knowing that he was there and there was nothing else he could have done.
There was nothing, and yet he still feels like, why couldn't I have stopped and saved my brother? And he'll always think, and these are things we call a ripple effect. And for the very reason Ray started the Chris Donovan Trust was to teach young people about those ripple effects. When you do certain things, when you take crack cocaine and drink, when you're out on the rampage in streets, you have an effect on people, and you need to understand how that affects is and what it is, and how you know, we're all responsible for the things we do. And so that's why we teach in schools, that's why we teach in prisons, that's why we teach in colleges. We teach about those things. This is the true life story of a ripple effect that people cause when they get out of control.
And how did you start the trust then? Did you do this not long after it actually happened? How did it start?
It started off as a Christian organisation called Forgiveness Ministries. And then because I forgave that night. As we got in the car, said to we need to forgive these boys. I can't tell you what she said to me in the car. Yeah. Because I looked at it this way. I was working out in my head. I come from Brixton. Yeah. And I said it was a fight that got out of order. You know, it's a fight that went wrong. I kept saying that to you, didn't I? But if I couldn't get it. Now, I'll tell you about the court case in a minute. I just knew that. And so I thought we might as well go around and start talking in schools and churches, didn't I? And we did. And someone said to us, as a religious organisation, we can't give you any money. Like today, we couldn't get it, yeah? And so I changed it to the Chris Donovan Trust. In fact, I rang a school up in Peckham and said, can we come and give a talk? She went, no, you're too religious. So I changed it to the Chris Donovan Trust. Next week she went, oh, can you come and talk?
The way the world is. It's the way the world is. And those books cost £3,000 for about 20,000 of them. We've given out 80,000 last year alone across the country.
We're giving 60 of these and 80 of them. We never got answers. Let me explain something first what happened in court. When they were found guilty, there were 3 of them. The day they were found guilty, we went upstairs to the canteen and one of the fathers followed me up. And he stood like that and he went, I'm sorry. We both hugged each other. When we went back 2 weeks later for sentencing, he was in the same canteen. He went and bought a cup of tea. As he came back, I stood up, put out my hand, shook hands. Colin Sutton, the man in charge of the case, the policeman, said he's never seen anything like it in his life. We talked for 20 minutes, and I said to him, if Chris got a lucky punch in, I could be standing where you are. That's where, you know, we both understood that. And me and him walked downstairs to the court together. And the boys got 6, 9 and 10 years for murder.
All the lies, trying to get themselves off, all those lies that they told. We walked out of that courtroom with some kind of justice for Chris, but no truth. And we needed that to move on.
Yeah, Stan, we've been doing prison work for 12 years now. Yeah. And this charity called Calm came round, Confidential Local Mediation, and they sat in our house. And lo and behold, they got us to meet all 3 of them. Not all at once. And they weren't in prison when they met us, so they didn't have any time off for good behaviour. Oh, she said, what do you want to do when he walks in the room? I said, when he walks in the room, I want to shake his hand. She came back a week later, she said, well, if you don't want to shake hands, it's there, you can take it or leave it. As he walked in the room, I just stood up and went like that, and he came over and put his arms around me, he went, thank you. He then looked at you, didn't he?
So can I hug you? This 15-year-old is now 25. And I'm thinking, you still look like the 15-year-old to me. But yeah, you can hug me. And we hugged and then we said, hey, young man, we forgive you. We want you to have the life Chris can't have. And he started to cry. And we started to cry. And we said, look, we all need to move on. And he sat down and then he said, I'll tell you the truth.
Then he said to us, he loved this, he said, I fought the system, we knew that, because it all goes around the prison, you can hear the grapevine. He said, then they put me on a victim awareness program. It's what UNVI does, he said. The same program. I went, yeah. And he went, from that day to this, I can't get Chris out of my head and out of my heart. And every time he mentioned Chris, his hand went on his heart. And he went, I was a 15-year-old coward. I murdered your son and I'm sorry. That's all we wanted, wasn't it? It might sound quick, that was a 4-hour meeting.
So as I was just saying just now, you two have been through so much. You've forgiven, which is more than a lot of people can do. And I think the two of you are incredible people. Just from being around you, your energy, and you just want to live life and make it so this doesn't happen to other people. Tell me the next part of your story. What happened after the meeting?
After the meeting, I asked him, was he working? He said, no. I said, why aren't you working? He said, I was in construction, but they made me redundant. Now, we found out at the meeting that he's a great little artist. He got an award from a charity that goes in prisons and gets art. I said, would you like to be a curator of art? He went, what? I said, I'll get you a job tomorrow. He went, you wouldn't. I rang the charity up, called the Kozler Trust, and the secretary said, who is it then? I went, it's one of Christopher's murderers. And she cried down the phone, and they took him on for a while. But we later found out now he's doing tattooing. So the reason I got him a job was he wouldn't go back on the street. And the second one was Stephen. Now, he was the eldest one. He's the one, when he said to that girl, leave him there, that became murder. If he didn't open his mouth, it would have been manslaughter. Because he said leave him there, the police found the prison and said it's murder.
It's called intent to kill. They call that intent to kill. What did you intend? Well, when we go into schools, we say to young people, when you do certain things, what do you intend is going to happen? Have a think about what you do. What do you intend is going to happen? Because it's really important by law. Because you can get guilty by association today. If you're hanging around with the wrong people, what do you intend is going to happen? What do you think they're going to do? Have a think. And they all really, really think about that because it is so important. It proved to be important for Stephen. It's the difference between manslaughter and murder.
When we're in prison, we say, if you're a drug dealer, you're a murderer. Because someone like you sold the drugs that night. Because of someone like you, my son's dead. And drug dealers come up to us and said, we didn't realise we had victims took today.
No, we're here.
They didn't realise they had victims. And then they start arguing about drink. Well, what about drink? I said, I'm not interested in drink, that's legal. So how many women do you see prostituting themselves for drink? How many homes do you see broken because of drink? Not a lot. All drugs. How many people are getting stabbed in the street because of drink? None. And it starts making, we're their worst nightmare, drug dealers, aren't we?
We are their worst nightmare in the prisons, I've got to tell you, because we don't take no prisoners.
Before I talk about Stephen, we were in Wandsworth one day and I said that and he went, this man, I've got to be honest, he's a massive big bloke, yeah? And he went, me and you in a corner. I went, yeah, go on then. But no, I said, go on, what do you want? He went, Ray, I didn't just sell him, mate, I brought him into the country. I didn't realise till today, he said, how bad I've been. As our 6-week course, victims go on week 3 and we come back on week 6. As we walked in the door on week 6, he came in, pulled me aside, literally grabbed me, pulled me aside, said, I don't want to offend you. He said, I'm at this. And he had a brass plaque. And on it he put, in loving memory of Christopher Donovan, gone but never forgotten, loved by all. And he went, is this, have I offended you? I went, mate, it's better than an MBE. And we got that in our front room, haven't we?
That's what restoration can do.
The best thing that happened was when we met the second boy, Stephen. He was the oldest one, as I said. As he walked in the room, I stood up and went like that, just put my arms out. He didn't walk over, he ran. We broke every risk assessment going, me and him. He ran up to me, grabbed hold of him, we grabbed hold of each other. And he sobbed on my shoulder like a baby, didn't he, for about 10 minutes, saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He waited all those years because the professionals mucked up the meeting. Remember that one who wanted to meet us? And he grabbed hold of you, didn't he? He went, may I? And just ran over, didn't he? And all the professionals in the room were crying. They were sobbing, weren't they? And he just couldn't. As far as we were concerned, the meeting was finished. Can I just tell you, look, this is a booklet, and in this booklet is a letter from Stephen. I ain't got my glasses.
Do you want me to say?
This is the top bit.
The only bit I'm going to say is, this is about Stephen owning it, and he says, my name is Stephen Andrews, and I, along with other associates, was involved in the death of Christopher Donovan on the 26th of May 2001. I was subsequently charged, convicted of murder, and given a life sentence. This is about owning things, learning to own things. And then at the bottom he says, when Ray and Vi told me they forgave me, it meant everything. It meant that they understood that what happened to Christopher was an incident that should never have occurred. Hearing them give me permission to have the best life I can, it made me feel like a human being again, a good person with a clear focus and a positive future. I owe that to Christopher. Meeting Ray and Vi has helped me to accept that I owe it to myself too. When I committed this offence, I was lost with no direction or purpose. That's no longer the case. That's why it's important.
See, too many parents take on their kids' guilt, which we've got to stop doing. They had the choice to do that. It's their choice, not the parents. And too many parents do that. And he gets annoyed that they do that. Oh, my Tommy's all right, but it's my fault, you know. No, it's not your fault. He should have been out.
It's about taking responsibility. And it's all of these things we teach in schools. Take responsibility. It's not your parents' responsibility. It's yours.
I want every parent to hear this on your programme. Ryan, he said when everybody ran, I carried on kicking Chris. I kept stamping on him, kicking him. I heard him moaning. I thought he'd get up. I gave him a few more kicks. I still thought he'd get up. He said, then I ran to the alleyway. This is how he described it. I went to the alleyway. I looked around. I saw the lights come up over the hill, and I saw the car go up and over him. I still thought he'd get up. I said, well, he's some kind of an idiot. He went, Ray, it's not an excuse. It works in video games. Grand Theft Auto ring a bell? He actually thought Chris would get up.
And we said, you can't use that as an excuse. We won't allow that. He said, it's not an excuse. No, you misunderstand me, he said. I killed your son and I admit it. It's a symptom of who I was. And we went, we gotcha. It's a symptom of who I was. If you add drink and drugs to those unreal worlds, pretty soon you're living in total denial of the real world. I'd like to get hold of the people who made these games and let them sit and hear this and really understand and explain to us that it's okay, because really it isn't, is it?
I was going to say, what you have done now with the trust and what you're doing to talk to gangs, to go into schools, to talk to anyone that's potentially a little bit troubled, that potentially could go either way. This is wonderful, because you're going to prevent more cases like the similar happening. You're going to start to prevent them.
We had Paul Scully, the MP for Sutton and Cheam, around our house not long ago. And I went, would you like to see some letters from the prisoners? He went, yeah, he must have thought. I brought boxes down. I went, yeah. And he went, my God, these are all letters from the men. Thank you for changing my life. I'm never going to commit a crime again. These are thousands of letters we got, and poems and everything,
It
isn't it?
isn't just about us going in and making them feel bad and slapping them and saying, look, we want to take our anger out on you. It's about saying, okay, so you've mucked up. What can we do about it? First of all, you've got to admit it, and then we can do something about it. And actually, we need to give you some ideas that can stop you. We need to put things into place. You know, what can we do to help you? This is about restoration.
Cemetery. I've asked all three to come to the cemetery. I said, I think you owe it to Christopher to apologise to him, not us. He's the only one who's done it. It was a pouring, rainy day. We left him at the grave. He was nearly near his probation officer. We went for a walk, came back 20 minutes later. He was still there. I said, stand up. I said, look, Chris, if Chris was here, this is what he'd say to you. Get on with your life. And I'm giving you permission. It's great to move on. And he went, Ray, I want to come back. But there's someone here. I don't want to offend no one. I said, Steve, no one knows you from Adam. If anybody says, who are you, say you're his friend. I said, we can't change the past, mate, but we can all move on into the future.
Honestly, thank you both for talking to me, and I want to hug you. Can I hug you? I really want to give you a big squeeze. Oh, thank you so much. You actually, honestly, you're just wonderful.
He talked about his child, and we showed him photos of our grandson. And he said, I know that you've been working in schools. I want to come with you. I want to tell these kids where I went wrong. And we said, but you are. You've always been with us. Every school, every college, every place we go, every gang member, you are there, Stephen. Your story is there. We can't separate you. You're always in our life. And we are in yours. But it's in a positive way.